we're going to have a bit of a look at, and we're going to talk Jacoby Walter, a guard from Baylor. We went through it. It's not a similar thing, but we had the guard from Baylor situation with Keontae George last season. I'll just start with that because it's an easy comparison. It's where our mind goes. Jacoby Walter's like 6'6" guard wing. He's almost 20. He averaged 19 points per 40. What's the difference with him coming out versus Keontae George?
Yeah, I think both of them, they're two very different players. Obviously, just being at Baylor and kind of being off guards, they played similar roles this last season. But I think Keontae was a little bit more able to do certain things off the dribble and make plays. Obviously, we saw him be able to showcase more of those point guard skills going into Summer League and then obviously into his role this year with the Utah Jazz. And then Jacoby, on the other hand, is a little bit more natural of a shooter, a movement guy, somebody that can, attack closeouts, get in where he fits in off the ball. I think that's going to be more where he's slanted. And then defensively, he has bigger dimensions. I'm a little bit, I question that end of the floor for him a little bit more, but in terms of comparing him to Keontae, I think he definitely has more upside in that respect, especially at the combine measuring in with a 6'10" wingspan.
Yeah, so he's about 2 inches or so taller than Keontae as well. I think, again, I like to get, as me playing the dumb casual, get the easy comparisons out of the way to talk about, because that's where a lot of brains will just very quickly go to. All right, the other question is going to be about him is like, all right, can he shoot? 23 usage, big three-point attempt rate, 57%. He hit him at 34%. I think there are solid enough indicators here to suggest that he will be able to shoot in the NBA at a pretty decent to a very worse above average level. But people are concerned that maybe this is that archetype of player who plays in college, has got a bit of an athletic or size advantage, doesn't shoot well, and then just never sort of learns to hone that part of his game. I think he's going to be able to shoot. How do you view it?
Yeah, I don't necessarily put a ton of stock into the splits that he shot this year, at least from three. The other stuff we could have a different conversation about. But from three, I think that when you look at both his mechanics, his track record as a shooter, and then his ability to do it on the move and in different situations, I think that he definitely has all the makings to at least be, as you said, in that average to above average range. Now, he may not get to that ultimate like 40% mark on, the highest of volumes that we see in the league of, the elite shooters. But I think he at least has all the tools to be somebody that you have to respect, commands gravity in the situation that he's in. And I would be kind of surprised if he didn't get to there.
So what's his number one thing? What's his skill? What's the one thing where you go, is it like, okay, whether he's the number one guy on a team is probably unlikely in the NBA, but can he be does he have any passing vision? Can he defend? Is it going to be shooting? Is it going to be getting to the rim and finishing? What's the one thing where NBA teams will go, oh, we can use that?
Yeah, I would say that's the shooting. I think that you're looking at a guy who is going to come in as a complementary player, somebody that, spaces the floor, can, and off of that gravity and off those closeouts is able to get to a 1-2 dribble pull up, do things of that nature. Now he's got some things to improve upon as a driver and just being able to make decisions with the ball there. But I think you look at a guy who can space the floor, be put into movement situations off screens and use his gravity in that way, use him as a screener as well. And then defensively, the big pitch or the big idea for him is to be able to guard both wing positions or do things of that nature a little bit better. I have just a little bit more concerns just given his size. He is, 6'5"-ish. He's a little bit smaller. Wing doesn't have the best size there. Not necessarily somebody who's quick enough to be your point of attack defender either. So I could see some difficulties in that respect too. But I think with him, the pitch is 3-and-D, somebody who can come in and complement. But all the other stuff, the creation, the playmaking, just making decisions, that's stuff that I think is a little bit more of a work in progress.
I've got 3 names for you of guys that have come into the NBA in the last 5 to 6 years who sort of came in, I guess, with that idea of 3-and-D, of shooting, and they've sort of all diverged in the NBA. One of them is Devin Vassell, one of them is Aaron Nesmith, and one of them is Malik Beasley. Now, there's obviously very different levels of defense between those groups and 3-point volume and self-creation, but when they came in, they're all sort of like, okay, maybe this guy is going to be a shooter and he's got this high percentage coming out of college and maybe that's going to be his role and maybe he is a 3-and-D guy, but they've all sort of changed it. So where does he sort of fit compared to those guys? We know Beasley's a disaster defensively. We know Neesmith's very good defensively. Like, where does he sort of fit with that sort of trio of guys?
Yeah, I would say as prospects, he'd probably be the most similar to Aaron Neesmith. Now, Neesmith has improved a ton in just his footwork, his athleticism since coming into the league. I felt like it was a little bit more shaky when he was at Vanderbilt. Obviously, he didn't finish that season. He shot like 52% in the volume of games that he played. But just in terms of somewhat similar like size, I think he's the most similar to him. Obviously, a guy like Malik Beasley is a little bit more talented. He's kind of a pure scorer in a lot of ways, and that's what he does first and foremost. And in different situations he's been in throughout his career, that can either go really well for him or really bad and end up not getting a lot of time. So I would say Neesmith, from those three, he's probably the most similar. Vassell, I had just a little bit more confidence in as a defender, better dimensions, and just in his overall upside.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. There are many stresses that we all have in our lives, whether you are an NBA scout or a GM trying to figure out which player is higher on your board or not. You're a team that is making a selection high in the draft and you're worried about what they're going to do. Like, that's small. It's trivial stuff for some of it. Some of it's big. It might be your job that's involved in this. But we need to get things off our chest, and an unbiased person in your life might be a therapist. And that is a way that you can use therapy. It doesn't have to be for all of the big things all of the time, but learning the coping skills to deal with these things is a key part of what therapy is able to do. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, you can give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible, suited to your schedule. So all you got to do is just fill out your brief questionnaire. You get matched with a therapist who is a fit for you. But if you meet up with them and have a session and it doesn't work out, well, you can just switch to another therapist for no additional charge. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.